right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So it's episode 15. The Jets have literally lost, I want to say, what, four straight now? So we haven't seen a win in pretty much an entire month.
Yep.
Tyson, I feel like I know how you're feeling, but man, like, how you feeling?
I'm glad it's Monday, man, because if this was Saturday or Sunday, it'd probably be a lot more angry than I was on Friday night, or I was embarrassed. You're annoyed, you're
Right.
frustrated, you see the season going to pieces. But I guess my question for you is this. What were your realistic expectations going into that game against the Dolphins with Tim Boyle as a starting quarterback? Like, what were you, like, honestly, as a fan, like, what did you expect to happen in that game?
So for me, it's like, okay, if you want to bench Zach, because like the thing is, you look at this Jets offense, there's a myriad of different problems, man. I mean, we've talked about it pretty much in every episode for, however long. It's like play calling, quarterback play, offensive line protection, offensive line in the running game. We can't really establish a run, starting off slow, red zone failures, third down failures, not choosing to push the ball deep, not really having any sort of creativity or trickery or smoke and mirrors or pre-snap motion or none of that stuff.
Right.
All right, injured players, dropped passes, penalties, just it's one thing after another. Was going from Zach Wilson to Tim Boyle going to fix all those problems and knock off the 7-3, at the time 7-3 Dolphins who were in first place in the AFC East? No, probably not, but I was at least hoping that there was a plan in place from the Jets staff, Saleh, Hackett, Downing, whoever, Calabrese, like it goes back to the thing, dude, and I don't mean, we're not even 2 minutes in. And like, I really don't mean for this to keep being like, bro, we've literally posted negative episode after negative episode after negative episode. But, we've said multiple times, like, we're just trying to keep it real. Yep. We're not going to, sugarcoat stuff and, stuff like that. But it always comes down or comes back to, for me, like personally, is there a method to the madness? Is there a plan in place? Is there a plan B, an insurance policy? Is there a reason or a solution or a remedy? Like, what's the point of doing these moves? It doesn't seem like there's anything there's no foundation or no like substance there. It's just like, let's just try this and hope and cross our fingers that we see a spark. And we saw that with Mike White, and it surprisingly worked. He came in and threw for 400 yards his first, go around with Cincinnati, which was awesome. But it's like, that's, that doesn't really happen, So to go from Zach Wilson to Tim Boyle, to expect the offense to light up the scoreboard, drop 35 points or something like that against a Fangio-led defense, and one of, if not the best offensive football, I think it was a stretch to say. But I'll say this, I was expecting more than what we saw.
That's the problem. But the problem is this: it's like you go to Tim Boyle, and it's like, all right, and the Jets kind of set themselves up for failure by telling everybody how great of a command Tim Boyle has of the offense. He can get in and out of the huddle quickly. He's got a big arm. He's got quick read. So they're setting you up like, all right, this offense is going to look better. And then you go out and you see more of the same, if not worse. But it went even deeper than that, where Alan Lazard was a healthy scratch, and you're like, all right, we're holding guys accountable, which is great, but we're also exposing all of the problems of this roster development, right? So I went into it saying Tim Boyle is going to play okay. They're going to be able to move the ball effectively. May not going to score 30 points, but is scoring 17 points asking a lot? Like, we're not like, this shouldn't be some primitive offense. And he looked like he was kind of in over his head, but the play calling makes no sense, dude. And it's like you add in bad quarterback play, bad play calling behind a bad O-line. It's a recipe for disaster. You know what I mean? It's just, it's hard to watch. It's frustrating. It's annoying. And I don't know where you go from here. Like, just look at the offensive line. Now, we all thought Dwayne Brown was going to come back because Becton was out. He didn't come back. It was Carter Warren. So now your left tackle's a mess, right? It's like you go down the line. It's like, how does all this stuff keep happening, right? I don't know. And then, like I went back to the play calling. It's like run, third and long pass. The pass is never going to be longer than 10 yards. Every pass is 5 yards or less. It's all predictable. Defenses know how to attack us, no matter who the quarterback is. So I don't know, man. It just feel like it's getting worse. It feels like the wheels are falling off. And now, the finger pointing is going to start, right? It's just Like you had questions about Hackett. Now I have questions about Saleh and Douglas as well. You know?
Yeah. I mean, dude, it's tough. It's like I just don't understand like how we can like how the weeks are going by here. Literally an entire month has gone by.
Yep.
And by the way, we're not talking about the early games against Dallas and New England and stuff like that. We're talking about just this last month. So Finns, Bills, Raiders, Chargers, and even Giants too, even though the Jets won. And by the way, this is also coming out of the bye week. So we've had a week off to assess problems, build on the positives, try to get rid of the negatives, try to find solutions. We're getting worse.
Yep.
And you just talked about Joe Douglas. He is not like I'm not sweeping him under the he is fully to blame for this mess as well.
Yep.
Because at least with Adam Gase and the Todd Bowles led Jets, maybe outside of 2015 and 2016, although 2016 was also a mess, but really 2017 up until probably this year. Like we haven't really had that much talent. We haven't really had that many first round picks invested in the offensive line or in the offense in general.
Yep.
We haven't really had many big money free agent acquisitions on offense. It's more so been on the the defensive side of the football. Yeah. Again, going back to Todd Bowles and whatnot. But with Joe Douglas, and we've talked about this a lot, 4 draft classes, 6 first round picks, $350+ million spent on this roster since he's taken over in 2019. How are we worse? How are we worse offensively when we are win now? When this team is talking about deep playoff runs and winning the division and this and that. I completely get it. Aaron Rodgers is a beast, future first ballot Hall of Famer, top 5 quarterback of all time. But to me, dude, that doesn't give you an excuse. Like, I just don't get how you can go from talking about like Super Bowl, winning it all, making this huge playoff push to being unwatchable with Rodgers going down. And I know we lost AVT and I know we lost, a couple other guys as well. It's not just Rodgers, but we have been having the same issues since week 2 and week 3, and they've just continued. And, I want to say outside of the Chiefs game and the Eagles game, and even in the Philly game, like we weren't, great offensively, but like 2 weeks, dude, like 2 weeks out of 12, I believe 11 or 12 games, we've looked okay. Like to me, that's just not an excuse. Like it's just,
but see,
I don't know, man. I'm so frustrated with it.
The question I have is that, like we all going into the season saying the Jets are a Super Bowl or bust team or Super Bowl team, caliber team with all this talent. And that was universal. Pretty much everybody thought the same thing. The Jets are going to be a very, very good team this year. So we all bought into that. And honestly, if Rodgers doesn't get hurt week 1, I'm not sure he's still playing right now behind his offensive line. Because as good as he is getting rid of the ball quickly and moving around, I mean, Boyle was bad. A lot of times he had no chance, dude. Like these guys are coming in free. Blitz pickup is bad. O-line is bad. Injuries, whatever else. But the quarterback's taking big hits. I don't think Rodgers survives anyway. So then that falls back on Joe Douglas, where we talked about this in August, dude, about the whole Dwayne Brown thing and how they handle the offensive line. They took a lot of calculated risk on the offensive line, and it didn't work out. They actually got lucky with Becton coming back off 2 years being not playing and playing well for this long period of time. They got lucky with that. AVT goes back down again. McGovern they brought back, who's not very good. Tomlinson's played a little better. Left tackle's been a revolving door at this point. Now it's Becton, Brown, Carter Warren, whoever else. But I'm not sure Aaron Rodgers would even survive behind this offensive line. So that was, and Billy Turner's been bad, right?
Yeah, I mean, it like that. God, and it's not some sort of like hindsight 2020. Oh, we should have done this. Like, how did that slip our mind? Dude, literally every Jet fan was talking about the offensive line for months.
Yep,
for months, dude. Like even when we were talking about like Derek Carr and trading for Lamar Jackson and all these signing Jimmy G, like. Before the Rodgers stuff even got serious, we as a fan base, we were like, what's going on with the O-line?
Yep.
What's going on with the O-line? Are we really going to push all of our chips, or is Joe Douglas going to push all of his chips into the middle of the table, banking on Dwayne Brown, who's 38 or 37?
Coming off major injury.
Mekhi Becton, who major injury. 2 seasons though of major injury.
Mm-hmm.
AVT, season-ending injury. You talked about left tackle being a revolving door. Right guard has been a revolving door.
Yep.
It feels like we're back in the Adam Gase era too, where we just can't find a guard at all. And what blows my mind is we had a really good one last season, in Nate Herbig, who was, in my opinion, one of the best backup interior offensive linemen in football. And we just choose to not bring him back. I understand, hey, if he wants to go over to Pittsburgh and because he signed pretty early in the process, but that was to me like a no-brainer. And I remember the day I saw that notification, I'm thinking like, this might come back to bite us, but it is what it is. Hopefully there's, again, a method to the madness here on why the Jets just aren't addressing offensive line. Yeah, I understand we brought back McGovern, and I liked that move at the time. And, Billy Turner, but that's it.
Their plan was ifs, dude. Like we talked, and for those watching, this is just it's not revisionist history. We literally talked about this. Our preview show, our season preview, the Jets' plan on offensive line had a lot of ifs. If Dwayne Brown comes back healthy, if Becton comes back healthy, if AVT comes back healthy, if McGovern can be serviceable, if Tomlinson can actually play better because he's been a bust since he's been here. That was our plan. You didn't have a lot of confidence in it, but our saving grace was Aaron Rodgers gets rid of the ball quickly. Nate Hackett's here, and it's a whole new offensive line coach like Carter and Downing. It's like we expected improved coaching, improved quarterback play. That could possibly hide the offensive line deficiencies if they all stayed healthy. And it blew up in her face, dude. It literally did. And it's just, and now you're seeing the aftermath of that because the offensive line is the anchor of your team. They're not playing well. You can't establish the run. You can't throw the football, and you can't score points. So you go from the bad offensive line to, I want to go to the receiver position because, granted, the Corey Davis thing caught us all by surprise. He retired. We didn't expect it. A lot of people wanted him. Okay, go ahead.
Real quick before we jump to wide receiver, I was looking it up before how many times Tim Boyle was sacked. In the one start, he was sacked 7 times for 49 yards, dude. That's half of a football field. That's how we lost half of a football field in sack yardage. That is awful. And Zach Wilson was sacked a ton. Granted, he would hold on to the football. Not every single sack was on the offensive line, of course. But when your quarterbacks are constantly being rushed and they're under duress every week, no matter who you're playing, it's just a recipe for disaster.
No, it is. And we're going to get into that because the recipe to attack the Jets offense is easy now. It's predictable. I drink some beers during the game. I have a good time. I'm calling the plays. I know exactly what's going on, and you know how defenses are going to attack it. It's obvious now. It's so predictable. But you look at wide receivers, and we all love Garrett Wilson, and I will never blame him for anything. I think he's ridiculously frustrated, as he should be, as this team is falling apart. He's probably not used to losing like this and probably not used to producing like this. So I get him. But after that, how did Joe Douglas handle the wide receiver group? Corey Davis retired, which caught us all by surprise. But to be fair, a lot of people wanted him cut to save that cap money. They're like, oh, Corey Davis is going to be gone. He's expendable. We got all these guys. So he retires, but you still have time to replace him. That's the thing. So you go out and quickly go get Alan Lazard. Okay? Alan Lazard did solid in Green Bay, had some drop issues, whatever else, but he's been a colossal disappointment. You bring in Randall Cobb as kind of an insurance policy. He's doing nothing. You trade away Hardman. He's gone. Now you're left with what? All these unproven guys. So look at your playmakers and these all highly talented playmakers. So the question I have for you is Alan Lazard bad because our quarterbacks suck? Or is he just bad because he got his big paycheck and he's kind of like, you know what? I'm not really buying into this. I'm not in the flow. He has a soccer ball on the field in practice, which drove me crazy. Why is Lazard bad?
Yeah, I think, right off the bat, you talk to Packers fans when the Jets brought him in, they're like, yeah, he was a good player, but $11 million a year it's quite a lot.
Yep.
But it's like, if you look at it from the Jets side, it's like, okay, well, we're still struggling to get to 500. Because we brought Lazard in before we got Rodgers, before we knew Corey Davis was retiring, I believe. So, so we brought in Lazard, and it's like, okay, here's, just another boost or another solid wide receiver. Somebody who has experience working with Hackett, somebody who has experience working with, Rodgers he will come in and help turn or teach the system to the younger guys, and he's going to be an option. But with Davis retiring and trading away McCole Hardman, it just I'll say this: I'm not excusing Lazard's play because I've been completely disappointed with it. The drops, and it sounds like Salah has been completely disappointed by it as well, based off the post game presser. But I'll say this: what player is actually excelling under Hackett?
Yeah,
What player actually excelled last year in Denver?
Right.
Like you outside of like Jerry Jeudy, it's like Breece Hall's having a down year. Garrett Wilson's having a down year.
Yeah.
Every player on the offensive line, maybe outside of Becton, but Becton hasn't played for 2 years, so maybe he was this good this entire time. I'm not saying, every offensive player gets a pass. By no means am I saying that, but it's like, hey, well, if the coaching isn't there and you're looking literally across the board and every single offensive player, again, outside of Becton, is performing maybe I don't want to say worse than expectations, but I guess below where the fan base thought they should be at. Yep. I think that's an alarming problem. I mean, even guys like Conklin and Dalvin Cook is another one. Like every single player here is
Lazard better once Aaron Rodgers comes back? Is he a guy that's going to catch 6-7 passes a game and not consistently drop the ball, or is this the guy we're getting? That's kind of the question I had, because every Packer fan I've talked to, I've gotten messages all the time now. They're like, dude, this is what he did there too. He dropped a lot of passes. That was always his forte. The thing is, he's not getting a lot of opportunities here, so the drops stick out a lot more, because if you say you get 10 targets, you drop 2, he's got 8 catches. Like, all right, he had a good day. If you're only getting 4 targets and you drop 2, man, he sucks. So it's like, all right, so I'm kind of looking at 2 things: the coaching, which we'll get into, but also the roster development. So now we all know Lazard's our Aaron Rodgers guy. That's why yes, the Jets needed wide receiver help. Coincidentally, they knew Rodgers was coming. Coincidentally, one of his favorite targets in Green Bay came along with him. So, I'm down on him. I'm down on the wide receiver group as a whole, minus Garrett Wilson. But it's like, how much changes with a better quarterback? And that's what we don't know. It's just, I have I don't know. I'm just really frustrated because I think because I think our standards are so low that sometimes when things get tough, you rise to the occasion. I think a lot of these guys aren't doing that because they know the quarterback's not going to help them. Like the difference between these guys, Tim Boyle and Zach Wilson and Mike White, he gave him energy, he gave him leadership, and he made throws, and they could buy into it. I think a lot of these guys know they're not buying into it. They know the offense isn't going to work with these guys at quarterback, and they're kind of half-assing things. So now Salah finally at 4-6, 4-7, starting to hold guys accountable. This should have happened weeks ago. Right. But I think when you don't have a quarterback you believe in, it's a problem. And that's why you could have made a good case going into this game. Trevor Siemian should have started. They went the whole Tim Boyle route, but Trevor Siemian, not saying he's great. I'm not saying he's good. He can run an NFL offense. He's been there, done that, seen that. And he could probably make these easy throws that nobody else can make on this roster. But, you look at it, it's frustrating, dude, because you don't know, you're not maximizing the potential of your playmakers. So we don't really know what we have. We want to cut everybody and we hate everybody. But how much does it change when a Rodgers comes back? Did he become good all of a sudden?
Yeah, I think the short answer is yes. Right, Rodgers makes everybody better. He can get the ball out quicker. The offensive line doesn't have as much pressure on them because he can step back, process, and get the ball out. He knows the offense, knows some of the players. But again, dude, it goes back to what we were talking about at the start of the pod. It's a myriad of different problems. It's one person, one player can't fix everything. Even if the Jets got the best offensive coordinator, hypothetically, if the Jets got Sean McVay as their offensive coordinator, right? Yeah, the Jets offense would look a lot better, but we still have injuries. We still have guys dropping passes. We still have poor quarterback play. We still have bad offensive line play. We still can't it's not just a one person fix.
Nope.
And that's why I feel so mentally defeated watching this offense, because we are going out and signing free agents. We are going out and drafting players. It's year after year after year. The offense is the problem. They keep on adding pieces, and yet nothing is turning. Nothing is good enough to get this offense to turn the corner. I had a thought. It slipped my mind real quick too. So we're kind of down on wide receivers. The both of us, a lot of fans are. I have no problems with Xavier Gibson and Jason Bradley two undrafted free agents that are actually seeing playing time. I have no problems with them whatsoever. I'm rooting for them. I love both of those guys. I think both stories are great. But when you just look at the facts, maybe if I take like my Jets fandom out of it, like if I were to go ask like my brother, somebody, one of my friends that isn't a Jet fan, they would say, okay, well, Alan Lazard, in year one of a 4-year, $44 million deal is being benched for an undrafted free agent. Elijah Moore was traded away, replaced by Randall Cobb. Now Randall Cobb is being benched by an undrafted free agent. That, it doesn't really matter how good Brownlee and Gibson are. That fact alone should be a red flag, or, should sound off an alarm of, well, hold on. The Jets might not have the best idea on what they want in the wide receiver position, because Hardman was another guy that they clearly did not know how to use. Because I'm not under the mindset of the Jets bringing him in because he was hyped up. Right, signed a 1-year contract that he had the chain and everything like that. Like it seemed like he really wanted to be here. I'm not, buying into the minds or the belief that he came in and was like a locker room cancer and like did not get along with coaches and it was out of that he wasn't playing. I just feel like they didn't know how to use him without Rodgers there.
I agree, and that's the thing too. It's like you wonder, like. You come to the Jets because you want to play with Aaron Rodgers. That's it, man. Aaron Rodgers, I see the hype. You got Garrett Wilson, Brees Hall, all these stars. But then once you get in the room and you start seeing the offense, you're like, this coach, what is this coach doing? And the one thing now, because now the really cool thing is a lot of Packer fans interact with us. They send me all kinds of messages and stuff. And I appreciate it because they're giving us different insight that I wouldn't know because I'm not like an avid Packer fan or a Bronco fan for that matter. And a lot of Bronco fans told us, they said Hackett's offense is so complex and difficult. It takes a lot of time to figure it out and become a cohesive unit. I mean, you're seeing Russell Wilson this year, dude, with the Broncos, playing much better football than he played last year. And they have a lot of talent there. So now it's like, all right, the thing with this offense is why is it so complex and so difficult where you see offenses all throughout the NFL that they deal with injuries, they score points. They deal with injuries, they can move the football. Like if it's that complex, at what point does Saleh, who doesn't have a role in this team other than be a CEO type head coach, step in and say, listen, bro, simplify this because it's not working. Like you can't go week in and week out doing 140 yards passing and be like, this is acceptable. Like at what point say simplify it because we can't utilize our resources. Like the Jets have talent, dude. You have Ruckert. You can't keep doing the same screen pass to Brees Hall. You can't keep doing that because now we know it's coming. But how does he not step in and say, listen, change this up, simplify it? Or how does I don't mean to keep going, but how does Aaron Rodgers, as an outsider looking in, watch the offense and be like, listen, man, I could probably run this. These guys can't. We need to make this easier so we can actually have a flowing offense.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, dude, like what is a coach? Like whether you're an NFL guy or not, like what is a coach? Basketball, high school football, whatever. Yeah. Like you need to be able to coach the players on your roster. And I get it. It's the NFL. Egos are involved. Money is involved. Names are involved. A lot of people probably think that they're the smartest in the room. So especially if Hackett has such a good rapport with Rodgers, again, a top quarterback literally of all time, he's probably thinking like, hey, I'm the man. I know what I'm doing. Like my offense works. It worked in Green Bay. Although it was Matt LaFleur calling the plays. To me, like the great coaches can adjust to their players. Oh man, this guy goes down. We have to adjust some way, somehow, and figure out, like put together a solid plan and move forward, not just guess A and throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks, or B, refuse to do that. Like, who refused was like Chip Kelly at the end of his tenure. It's my way or the highway. Adam Gase refused. It's my way or the highway. And again, like as a fan of football, outsider looking in, like I'm not an NFL coach. It might be easy for me to sit here and say this because we see it so much, like NFL coaches being fired because they don't want to adjust. They don't want to, move off. It's, I know what I'm doing. And even if our players can't run it, like it's kind of hard to put into words, but and we're kind of seeing it too a little bit with like Bill Belichick and like just like in New England, just not getting any offensive talent. Like just refuse. Like they have no speed. They have no explosion offensively. They don't change anything offensively. As far as this current regime, like this year with Bill O'Brien and last year with Matt Patricia, I think they were pretty innovative with McDaniels when he was there. But it just goes to show it's I don't know, man. It's frustrating. You just want your guys or you want the coaches to be able to look at the roster and say, hey, you know what? Kind of like Greg Williams did with our defense when he was here.
Yeah,
he's a 4-3 guy. Cleveland Rams 4-3 defense, but he said, I got to be honest, like we're looking at this roster, it's built. We have a pretty good foundation for a 3-4. I have some, familiarity with a 3-4 defense, even though it's not my preferred route. I'm going to roll with this. And he rolled out a pretty good defense. It wasn't elite, but he made the best of what he had. That to me is an NFL coach. That to me is somebody that you can put trust in, where it's just like backs against the wall, might not be in a favorable position. Players going down, maybe he's in a bad spot or something. But I have the wherewithal, I have the ability as a coach to maximize players on the roster and to put them in a position to have success, figure out what they do well, figure out what they do poorly, cancel out the negatives, and build upon and focus on the positives and try to move forward. The Jets offense is running up the middle, screen passes and short plays and play action. That's it. Nothing down the field.
Nothing.
No bombs. No, I mean, really, dude, like the outside runs are non-existent. The pitch plays, like, is there any of that? The trickery, the one trick play that I've seen this Jets offense run just so happened to be the player with an injured arm, injured elbow, throwing the football. The one time out of the 11 weeks, the 12 weeks or whatever. It's like, you got to be kidding me, dude.
But see, to me, this is twofold. It's, first of all, I mean, Joe Douglas, we talked about this the last couple of weeks. I'm not going to bury it too much more, but Joe Douglas took a calculated chance bringing back Zach Wilson to backup quarterback and signing Tim Boyle. Both decisions, as of now, were terrible ideas that literally are costing this team the season. With that being said, the way they're play calling now and handling the offense now, I'm quite curious if they have some kind of assurance they're coming back next year, and that's why they're not panicking and that's why they're not worrying about it. Because they're built on excuses. Listen, we lost one of the best players of all time. How do we recover from that? We built our entire organization. We gave him all the keys. Face of the franchise, face of the locker room, face of everything. He was our guy, our leader, our spokesperson, our role model, everything. We lost that. We lost our identity. So how do we recover from that? That's like our built-in issue. Like, you know what? This is all about him. We don't have him. We'll try to throw things out there, but it's probably not going to work, and we know it's not going to work, and that's it. If that's the case, I think it's criminal because you don't mail in a season. I don't think it's fair to do that. Go ahead. I think that's.
No, go ahead.
I get that weird feeling that's why, like, I'm waiting for Woody Johnson to come out and address the media and say, give Saleh the vote of confidence. I have a lot of faith in my staff, and they're all coming back next year because they're acting like that. How else can you explain this? Because they're not making any changes, not legitimate changes. Going from Zach Wilson to Boyle, it was obvious because Zach Wilson sucks. He should never play again for the Jets. He shouldn't come back this year. He's done. Okay, they made a change to quiet us all down, but the guy they changed to sucks too. So, like, there's got to be, right? Do you think they have assurances they're all coming back, and that's kind of where they're like, you know what? It is what it is?
I do. I think it's more because Saleh at the end of the day can only coach who's there. Douglas has the power.
He's a bad coach. He doesn't coach. Go ahead. I'm sorry. He's a bad coach.
No. But like, if you're Saleh, who are you starting at quarterback?
I would have started Trevor. I mean, we talked about this, dude.
Right, but so Simeon's
after week
on the
one,
roster.
Yeah, I would have started Simeon this week because he's like, Boyle has been here longer and knows the offense, but I want the guy at least, like, we should try everybody. Like, Simeon should start this week. I don't care. Change it every week. I don't care. But we shouldn't be in this spot though, which pisses me off.
Yeah, exactly. Which, to me goes back to Douglas. If we had Gardner Minshew, if we had Josh Dobbs, if we had Jameis Winston, if we had Jacoby Brissett, or any one of these random Teddy Bridgewater, any one of these veteran backups, chances are they would probably have gotten the nod maybe earlier on. But Saleh, as the head coach, as the head coach of the team, I'm not trying to give him an excuse or anything, but he can only coach and make decisions based off of the players that are suiting up in practice. Like, true. He has the 53-man roster. Yep. He can't go out and start Lyle Collins this week. Why? Because he's not on the roster.
True.
Douglas has the power to make those changes. And I'm not just talking about signing an old veteran quarterback and bringing in like Lyle Collins. I'm talking about whether it was adding a piece at the deadline, and it's not just adding that one player, it's adding that one player and sending a message to the locker room saying, hey, we're serious.
Yes.
We care. You talked about it before, to start your point, where it's like you're putting so much, or the organization is putting so much stock in Aaron Rodgers, face of the franchise, this and that. That's great. But I mean, I personally, if he goes down and what you described is the mentality, oh, well, there's always next year. Well, we built the entire offense around him. Too bad. You're an NFL coach. There's 32 of them.
Yep.
Millions of dollars here are being spent. And, everybody's always talking about paying young superstar players after their rookie deals. Well, guess what? We wasted cheap deals or cheap years on contracts of Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Sauce Gardner, all the AVT, all these young players that the Jets have. Just another year wasted, another year sooner before we have to pay all of them. And they were all kind of lumped into the same like class or two. So that's going to be an issue when, 2 more years rolls by and all of a sudden we have like 4 good young football players that we might want to re-up on big contracts, but they're all asking for a ton. I could see a similar situation like Quinnen Williams, where he was solid and then explodes late. And I mean, can we afford that if there's 4 players here? But I guess that's a problem for the future. The problem, my main issue is that it just doesn't seem like the figureheads, the people running the Jets, care about winning games this year. And when Rodgers went down, it was like, well, the season's over. Let's just try to do damage control. Let's try to hold down the fort. And like, there's all these stories about like the future, right? Oh, we're going to target Devontae Adams. Oh, Aaron Rodgers is wanting to practice. Aaron Rodgers is shooting for a December comeback and all these different things. Can we please stop talking about the future? Like all gas, no break. It's like all talk, no production. Like no results. It's like, dude, like when can we focus on the present? Like 100%. D'Amico Ryans took over this year and saw results. Kevin O'Connell for Minnesota took over last season, instantly saw results. Brian Daboll instantly saw results. Obviously, this season's not going that well, but there's numerous, dude. There's so many examples that you can point to of an NFL coach stepping in and hitting the ground running and taking it over, like Doug Peterson in Jacksonville. We hired Saleh, I think a couple days, like the Jets brought in Saleh the same year that the Jags brought in Urban Meyer, dude. So we had a full year, step because the Jaguars brought in Meyer. They end up being the worst team in football again and fire him. They then bring in Doug Peterson and then they shoot all the way up and the Jets are still kind of stagnant. And there's just like 1,000,010 excuses. And I'm not saying that the excuses aren't valid. They are. But at what point, like, dude, like this is the NFL. Everybody gets hurt. There's adversity. You look at Pittsburgh, they're winning games. They fired Matt Canada. This is at the time, I believe they were a 6-win team. And they said, we have the playoffs in mind. We're playing in a stacked division, Baltimore, Cleveland Bengals. We're not accepting this. We're not accepting these offensive shortcomings. See you later, Matt Canada. It sucks to say goodbye, but it is what it is. It's the best decision for the team, not for one player, for the team. And the Steelers have looked a little bit better since getting rid of Matt Canada. The Buffalo Bills freaking were dominating Philadelphia offensively, man. Josh Allen running, Josh Allen throwing. Like the amount of yards that Buffalo's offense picked up, not only against the Eagles defense, but also against the Jets defense when they fired Ken Dorsey, a guy running a top 10 offense. But they said, you know what? No, we can do better. They got rid of Dorsey. Joe Brady comes in and the offense looks better. Why is it that the Jets are not only just the worst team out of all these different squads, but they have the worst offense out of all these different squads? And we are so hell-bent on, and I'm not saying fire Hackett, I'm just saying, is there any sort of fire? Like, who's the guy running the Jets that is furious, that's slamming his hand on the table, saying this is unacceptable. We got to change something up. Does anybody actually, not talking about the players, does anybody really care here?
Well,
or is it just, we're trying to get by? We're just trying to get through the season as opposed to, entering these games in attack mode, saying like, okay, this is a win here. We're going to go out and attack this team.
Yeah, and I think the problem is that Aaron Rodgers became such a prominent voice in this locker room that he was the guy motivating everybody, inspiring everybody, holding everybody accountable. You take him out of the equation, that now falls back on the head coach and everybody else. And to me, all the sloppiness you see now and everything else this falls to me on the coaching staff now. Like, I think they put so much, like, Aaron Rodgers has such a prominent role here where it's like, all right, now he's gone. Now it's like, well, now, like, they're just like, it's almost like the inmates running the asylum kind of situation. We're like, hey, man, we're free. Like, we're just going to, and then you see half-hearted attempts, the bad penalties, the sloppiness, the fumbles, all this stupid stuff. I'm not saying it's right. It's kind of because, and I'm probably saying this come down on Saleh. I don't like the way he handles things. I had the same concerns last year that I have this year, but it also makes you wonder what role Rodgers plays going forward in this, because now, according to every report, he wants to be playing by Christmas Eve. So it's like, if you take away play calling from Hackett, which you can make an argument for easily, that's his guy, dude. So it's like, does he, how much say does he have in the organization where it's like, hey, man, this offense works, and you get hints from him on McAfee when he talks about it. So I'm curious to see him. I think it's tomorrow he's on, where he says, listen, man, the offense works. I know it does. It's all about execution and people making mistakes. So he keeps saying the same thing. I wonder if he changes his tune a little bit, but how much say does he have in this whole thing now where he's like, listen, don't take play calling away from him? Because to me, it seems like the Jets sold their soul to get him here. They literally did. They gave him everything he wanted. They gave him the money. They gave him the coordinator, all his buddies, Alan Lazard, all this stuff. So they kept appeasing him. And I think in order to assure that he comes back next year, I have the feeling you're doing the same thing now, man. We're like, you know what? We'll keep Hackett here. We'll keep grinding out. We'll you'll come back in December and you'll have your coordinator, everything else. Is that a fair way to look at it? Maybe they're just trying to appease him, man. Make sure he comes back next year.
Yeah, but again, dude,
right.
like this
not saying it's right by no means. I hate the idea that you mail in a season and actively lose games. But how else do you explain it?
Yeah, but it's like, what is that? If that's the case, what does that say about the leadership, the general manager and the head coach of a football team?
I agree.
Like, if you were literally, I'm totally for building your team around a quarterback, right? Obviously, especially if he's a Hall of Fame one, somebody as good as Rodgers. And ideally, you would want to get some of his guys in, guys that he feels comfortable with. But we made the joke all off season. Rodgers is co-general manager.
Yep.
Rodgers is co-head coach.
Yep.
He's the spokesperson for the team. He's he is the New York, like it's the New York Rodgers, the New York Aaron Rodgers. That's how the Jets operate.
Yep.
So if he goes down and the general manager who's been here for 4 years, the head coach who's been here for 2.5 years, all these new acquisitions, all these draft classes, we can't figure out a way to play 500 football. What does that say about everybody else? I have no problems with Aaron Rodgers. Exactly. I think it's totally cool him slinging the football, around pregame. I've seen like a couple people have like an issue with it. Personally, I don't. I think it's cool how he shows up on the sidelines at home games. I think it's cool how he supports Hackett, doesn't throw anybody under the bus. I think it's awesome that he's trying to come back. I have no problems with Aaron Rodgers, but I do have a problem with because I do feel like if Rodgers went into Joe Douglas's office and said, I want this player, even if Douglas didn't want him, he would go out and do it.
Yep.
Which to me is just like, again, co-general manager here. It's Rodgers' team. And maybe that's a reason why he wanted to come to the Jets, because it was kind of getting a little weird in Green Bay where you could kind of tell like the organization wanted to do something and he maybe wanted to do a different thing. With Green Bay wanted to go like younger, go through the draft a little bit more, acquire picks, where Rodgers is, he was set on keeping like the veterans in place. And I think both ways are right. There's not really like a right or wrong. It's just preference. It's timelines. So yeah, it's tough because what's crazy, dude? Like, and this just it keeps popping in my head every week, and I always forget to say it on like videos and stuff. But if the Jets managed like to build a top offensive line in football, we would just be so much better.
Yep.
Like that, not just saying one piece, one tackle, but like if we had like legitimately put out like a top 8 offensive line of football all across the board from left tackle to right tackle,
Yep.
I think we would be really good. Even if Hackett was our quarterback, even with Wilson or Hackett as OC, Wilson as QB, I think we would be able to run the ball, control the clock a little bit more. Quarterbacks wouldn't have so much pressure on them to get rid of the ball quickly. But it's tough because that's just not, a one player fix. But again, we can point to other teams that can fix their offensive line in one off season.
But what you did is what Rex Ryan was doing. Like the Jets have a great defense. If you can effectively run the ball, you can hide your quarterback. You can literally hide them, dude. Where it's like this is what the Jets do with Sanchez. You see it with Minshew. You see other guys like they're running the football a lot. You're getting things. Pittsburgh. Like if you can get 150, 160 yards rushing, let Breece Hall be Breece. Use Dalvin Cook. Do all these things. Then Zach throws the ball 20. Not that I even want to use Zach, but 20 times a game. He throws for 150 yards. You win football games. But they can't even do that. They have absolutely no identity whatsoever on offense.
But yeah, I think like when we were seeing kind of the Jets winning some football games early on in the season, those first 4 wins or, really are only 4 wins. And even in the losses, right, against like Kansas City and whatnot, like our defense was playing pretty good football all year. Special teams playing pretty good football. It's the offense. It's not that we just, because Wilson wasn't turning the football over like crazy outside of like the Dallas game, like he was like he's putting up game manager numbers.
Yeah.
So, we take a look at like, okay, well, why aren't we winning football games? Why aren't we getting in the end zone? It's like the situational football, penalties, third downs, red zone, but it was also ineffective running game. Like you just said it, like if we were able to put out like 160 rushing yards per game, we would control the clock. We wouldn't be in these third and longs. Maybe we would punch it in on the goal line.
They did it last year.
Yeah. So it's like, man, it's just tough. It's I personally believe, man, if we had like a consistent, solid running game, and I'm talking straight numbers because I'm not doubting Breece Hall or anything like that. Love Breece, favorite player on offense, him and AVT. But if we were putting up like 160, 170 rushing yards per game, and like we were kind of think back to like Tennessee a couple years ago with like Vrabel and Tannehill, Derrick Henry, like those teams. Ironically enough, Todd Downing and Keith Carter were there. Like if we ran our team like that, good defense, tons of success, just ground and pound football, the Rex Ryan days, we would have so many more wins, dude. But we can't throw and we can't run. You throw that on top of guys getting hurt and the situational failures and the occasional drop here or there. It's like, and the occasional bad play call. It's like, yeah, we're not going to have a lot of success.
No. And it's like, it's so frustrating because you don't know what the future is. You really don't know. Like you're like right now, the biggest story at the Jets, and like people reach out to me like, hey man, if they beat the Falcons and win this game, I'm like, I can't even talk playoffs. The word playoff is so far in my mind right now because I'm just down. You're 4-7 and you have the worst offensive football. And it's not even close. I'm not thinking about that. It's like, all right, the biggest story for the Jets now is Aaron Rodgers potentially coming back. And it's like, to him, he wants to do it because he wants to prove science wrong. Like, listen, I'm a unique person. I did it on my way. This is what I'm back. And he's practicing everything else, which is cool. Good for him. Is it what's best for the organization? Probably not, because you don't want him to come back too soon. There's a lot of risk associated with it too. He's going to say, I was cleared by doctors. There's no risk. I'm going to say you're coming back to the teams that are still in the playoff hunt. They're going to be coming for your head, and they don't care about you being a feel-good story. So is it a smart move? But what's going to happen is he's going to say, I'm ready to play. And the Jets are going to say, you're the boss, right? They're not going to tell him no. They're going to let him play. So that makes you nervous to just get through the rest of the season healthy. And then to me, I'm already looking to next year. Like, all right, the goal was to have Rodgers here at least 2 years. Next year's that year. So next year is truly an all-in, must-win, got to do it all season. Because you think he's going to play 2 more years? Probably not, right? So you're literally
too hard to kind of think about.
Right. So it's just like, all right, now we're watching all these bad things happen with some bad players. We're going to carry all this over the same into next year and just say the biggest difference is going to be Aaron Rodgers. That's risky, dude, because my fear is that it blows up in their face. And a year from now, we're having the same conversation, be like, we've got to fire everybody. We need a quarterback. And now the true rebuild starts again with a whole new freaking regime. You know what I mean? It's tough to buy into bringing everybody back and Rodgers, but they're going to do that because they're not going to make any changes.
Do you
think he comes back with any change? Like, if they go to him and say, "Listen, I'll throw this as a hype scenario. Listen, man, we're going to fire Saleh. We'll make Ulbrich the head coach. We'll keep Hackett. We'll, do like something like that." Do you think Rodgers is like, "All right, cool, I'll deal with that"? But you got to keep Hackett here. You got to keep the scheme here because he's not going to he won't stay, right? I'm guessing.
Well, that's kind of like the big assumption that I feel like a lot of people, I guess maybe not a lot of people are talking about. It's like, what if Rodgers, because Hackett's not the reason why Rodgers is going to the Hall of Fame. Like, he's been great since the beginning. Yeah. Rodgers has. I wonder if a part of him is kind of looking at Denver last year, and he's looking at this year and saying, like, you know what, like, I love Hackett. I love this system. I want to keep Hackett here. He's my boy. But maybe we can bring somebody else in. Yeah. Not necessarily like a consultant, but maybe kind of like a consultant to like, an external third party to come in and analyze the problems, figure out and somebody that actually knows what they're doing. I'm trying to think of like available offensive minds who would risk their, whatever, dare I say, career to come to the Jets and to put their, job on the line. Probably not many. But, it makes you think too, like, because Rodgers is a smart dude and he cares about winning and he cares about legacy and all these different things.
Sure does.
And he's a prideful guy. So maybe he's, 100% still with Hackett, but a part of him is just like, what we're seeing now, what we saw last season, is not getting it done.
Nope.
Maybe we need somebody else.
But does he have the last say? But who has to say? My problem is, who is the decision maker for the Jets? Because
it's probably Rodgers.
Right. Because can Joe Douglas go up to Rodgers and say, "Listen, man, we love you. We're so glad you're here. We can't wait for you to see you come back on the field. But this offense ain't working for us, man. We got to go in a different direction. We've got to try somebody else." And Rodgers says, he goes, "I go." Then what? Like, that's like, he's a very loyal, like, you made a really good point. He's a very loyal dude, but he's also very consumed about his legacy and how he's perceived and being a very good player. Like, he takes a lot of pride in that. He's not coming back to a mess. He doesn't want to come back to a 5-win team and a lousy offense. He wants to come back to the best chance to win. Does he honestly think that Hackett does that? Or if they say, "Listen, man, you may think that, we don't," what happens? And that's my problem with all of this. They're truly, like, they sold their soul to him, man. So does he make all the decisions? Like, do they even have any power? Do they have any say in this matter? And I kind of don't think they do. And that maybe because I'm just so angry and mad about things, but I also know how he works. They got him all his guys. I'm sure Bakhtiari will be here next year. Like, with all things that are going to happen, right? I'm surprised Mercedes Lewis didn't come here. But it's just, right? So it's like, you're going to have another year of that. And the trickle down of that is, we already inherited all these bad players this year and all these problems. You're going to get year 2 of all that. If it's only here 2 years, then you got 2 years of all this mess you got to clean up once he leaves too. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, I'm sure Woody Johnson's going to have to meet the media soon, how he handles it. But if they don't make any changes at all, is wild to me when you're playing this poorly, like historically bad now on offense.
Yeah, I mean, if the Jets don't make any changes, we're going to know exactly who
100%
is running the show here.
Yep.
Man, it's such a wild situation because, like, you compare it to Tampa and Tom Brady, and even like Stafford and Sean McVay, when they won their Super Bowl and stuff like that. Like, the one thing that those two teams had that the Jets didn't, like specifically, like, let's look at Tampa. Like, both teams had a good defense. Both teams were like right on the cusp. Both teams had a nice core set of young players. Both teams had some free agency or some cap space to spend. Both teams had, some question marks, but ultimately both squads felt like they were a quarterback away. The difference between Tampa and the Jets: Saleh, unproven. Bingo. Bruce Arians, veteran, great offensive mind.
Bingo.
So Brady can now go there and say, well, I want to bring Fournette, I want to bring Antonio Brown and Gronk and all Julio Jones in the last year, right? All these different guys, Ndamukong Suh on defense, Richard Sherman, all these different players. but and I don't want to say that there's a mutual football respect between Brady and Arians, but early in that season, it was rocky because Brady was not used to playing in an Arians system, but there wasn't that like. I never got the sense that Brady was going to go to Bucks management and say, "I need a replacement."
Yep.
I'm not saying that's what is going to happen with Rodgers, but what I am saying is, if Rodgers were to do that, I think Woody would abide by A-Rod.
100%.
I don't think Tampa would have went with what Brady wanted. I think Arians played a part in Brady wanting to come there. Does that make sense?
100.
And
you're on it. Yep.
We've heard Rodgers say, like Saleh was a big reason why, and that's totally cool. I think that Saleh is a player's coach, and if you're looking at it like this great defense working with Rodgers, and Rodgers has like his buddies and Hackett, like on paper it looks good, but if something goes south, injuries on the O-line, record, historically bad offensive play, it's like, what happens then?
Yep.
With Tampa, it was like, no, our offense is never going to be in that position, because even if Tom, let's just say you suck and you're horrible, Arians is good enough to get him out of that situation, or put the pressure on Mike Evans, or put the pressure on Godwin or somebody else.
Yep.
And we know Todd Bowles is going to be killing it on the defense side of the football. Yep. And we look at it like the LA Rams, good defense, right? Pass rushers, Aaron Donald, they just tons of pass rushers all over that Rams defense. And then they had Sean McVay offensively. And Sean McVay has been able to, maximize the quarterbacks that he's been around. Yep. You kind of feel like the Rams never get blown out. They're always in a game, no matter who they lose, and all the injuries that they have. Like, they have like a solidified, at the time, solidified head coach that even despite him being super young, already had a Super Bowl appearance, before Stafford arrived. Whereas the Jets, it was like, yeah, we were on the cusp, but nobody behind the scenes actually, and I'm not talking about like Jordan Whitehead and stuff like that, like head coach, coordinator, all that kind of stuff. Nobody actually had that leadership's the wrong word, but just that resume in the back. Like, I've gotten this thing done before. Follow my lead.
No, that's a phenomenal point, because the only guy that really had that was respected was Greg Knapp. That was the guy they kind of counted on for a lot. But Saleh was
good point.
Saleh was in over his head on his first year, completely in over his head. Hired an inexperienced staff. A lot of things went wrong. Last year made some changes, but drastically underachieved toward the end of the season, and things fell apart. He mishandled the quarterback position. So the Jets were a desperate team on and off the field, because they were tired of losing. They didn't want to lose their jobs. So they had to make the splash move, and they had to get ultra aggressive, and they went out and got one of the best in the game. But there was a price to pay for that. The price they paid for is they got to concede a lot to get him here, and now you got to deal with all of him as he's here. And this is the problem you have. Like, it's difficult, man, because now you're like, to me, if he comes back this year, he comes back this year. Like, the cynical Jet fan in me is saying, when he comes back, he's going to get hurt and be another big issue. But, if he comes back, whatever, I don't care. But now you look towards next year, and Rodgers keeps saying he wants to play a few more years. I don't buy it. I think it's probably next year and he's going to be out of here. But it's going to be the biggest make or break year for this organization, because if you don't do it next year, you're in a rebuild, and you're going to have a lot of dead weight on this team. And furthermore, not only you have dead weight, you have a lot of young guys you have to start paying. You already got to pay Bryce Huff now. They got to take care of him. If they do or not, I don't know. But it's a weird time, man. It's such a weird time to be in with this team, because you really have more questions than answers at almost every level.
We're in the weird purgatory, dude. Like, kind of, I feel like Miami has kind of always been like throughout my life, Miami's always kind of been in this, they're picking like anywhere from like 11 to 18, 19. They aren't bad enough to be sellers and to pick top 5 and restart with a fresh regime. There's always enough pieces there to make you say, hold on, we got some stuff here. We can turn this thing around. But they don't have enough pieces to where they're like, okay, we're a playoff team. We are going to win the division. We are going to be a wild card team. Yeah. So it's this back and forth. I felt like, the Saints were they had a 3-4 year stretch with Sean Payton and Drew Brees. where they were like 7-9, 7-9,
Yeah.
7, like some pieces where they were good enough, and then they weren't they weren't elite, so they couldn't really kick it into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like the Jets are at now, where it's just like, are they sellers? Are they buyers?
They're gonna be buying,
Like
dude. They're gonna be buying, dude. They're gonna do everything they can to win next year. They're gonna have no choice. And even it goes even to the draft, where it's like they're gonna have a top. If they keep going the way they're going now, they're gonna have a top 8 pick, top 7, top 8, top whatever pick, right? They're gonna go offensive lineman or wide receiver, no doubt about it. But what could happen is, what if there's a quarterback staring them in the face right there? And it's like, to me, it's like, you know what? If Rodgers is only here one more year, then you could pull out the whole sit behind one of the best ever for a year, sit and watch. And the Jets, once he leaves, actually has a quarterback. But they won't do that because you know what? They don't want to deal with Aaron Rodgers. He's gonna be like, you know what? I need help on offense. Here's your help on offense. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even the decision like that, they're not gonna go quarterback this year in the draft, not the first round. There's no way they would do that.
Yeah, I mean, unless, which I personally don't have a problem with, I'm going offensive line until this thing is freaking figured out, man. Like, if I mean, bro, we can look at all these different quarterbacks. Like, let's just take this year. Aiden O'Connell looks pretty good, mid-round pick.
Yeah, true.
Right? DTR has gotten opportunities as a mid-round pick. Yep. CJ Stroud obviously is freaking lighting the league on fire.
Yep.
These young, it's not like how it was like 10 years ago. Like, you could go find somebody in rounds 3 or rounds 4 or something like that. Then you stash them behind Rodgers. But if you take a QB, unless we're picking top 3, I'd like Drake May, whatever, Caleb Williams. We're not going to have the first pick, but
no.
Let's just say, Penix, whoever, whatever QB you like. We're to me at least, we're setting ourselves up for another dysfunctional season where who knows, maybe at that point, because free agency is before the draft, we spend all of our money on the O-line, so on paper it looks good, but I just want to get the offensive line figured out. I think once we fix the line, everything gets better. We can run the ball, quarterbacks can develop, they'll have time to throw no matter who it is, wide receivers have more time to get open. That was one of, think back to the Bucks. Brady had a great offensive line in Tampa.
Yeah.
Think back to Aaron Rodgers pretty much his entire career in Green Bay. Great offensive line.
Yeah.
Has he ever been rushed? Like has he ever had like a horrendous offensive line? Like, we saw he got hurt 4 plays in with like the best version of the Jets offensive line, dude, before everybody got hurt.
Yeah, true.
So it's just tough, man. Like, if we could go out and land like a stud tackle, like at the top of the draft, and like in round 3, maybe go with like a developmental quarterback, like DJU from Oregon State or something like that, and then we can stash him on the bench on a mad cheap rookie deal.
Yeah,
get rid of Zach. It's like, I like that plan a lot more than saying, okay, top Q, unless it's like one of the top 2 guys, top QB at the top of the draft, not do anything else because we don't have a second rounder.
Nope. Yeah.
Our next pick will be a third rounder. Is that third round pick actually going to step in and be like a legitimate upgrade at, other positions again after free agency? I'd probably say chances are like slim 50-50. So I'm 100, and there's some pretty good offensive tackles, offensive linemen in this class. So I'm going the safe route. We've seen, like, whether we had the whole like Becton, Tristan Wirfs argument, the Jets, went with Becton. We can talk about the whole freaking trade back from 13 to 15, missed out on Broderick Jones, who's looking pretty good for Pittsburgh.
He is.
It's like, I want us to, and I get it. AVT's a beast, and Tippmann round 2. I mean, the hope is AVT and Tippmann, those are your 2 anchors. Tomlinson, unfortunately, is going to be here next season. Hopefully he can, his play will get better, or he'll take a pay cut or something. And you draft another tackle and maybe you sign somebody else. So you're looking at 4 possible, you have 4 options, with Lakin there. So with Lakin being the weak link, assuming Tippmann continues to play well, but that's kind of me diving way too far ahead.
No, that's what we're doing now. That's, you got to look at it. But it's funny. We're almost an hour into this, and we have not mentioned the Hail Mary. Can we just, what were your thoughts when that Hail Mary happened? The 99-yard interception return for a touchdown.
So dude, honestly, man, I might, get heat for it or whatever, but I think it was the right move. Throw a Hail Mary. We see,
I thought so too.
I think 31 other teams in football probably would have done the same thing. Just
Yep.
launch it deep and see what happens.
Me too.
But when it gets picked off, it's like, oh man, it's a pick. And then he starts booking it out of the end zone. And then at that point, it's just kind of like, it just seemed like that alone, or like Holland taking it out of the 1 yard line and not just going down, that like caught everybody off guard. Seemed like we were in slow motion trying to catch up to him.
Only the Jets,
I think I put
man.
out a tweet like, it's only us. Yeah, it's only us. But I do agree with Saleh. It is kind of like a bad luck thing. I think it's the smart. If we're in that position next week, I'm doing the same thing. I'm throwing it deep.
Me too.
I think that's the right football move. What are you gonna do? Knee it? I don't know. It's just weird. But yeah, and I think another thing too is just like the Jets need to stop playing and coaching in fear. Whether that's letting the QB sling it, whether it's, if we have another opportunity like that, chuck it deep again and see what happens. Like, we can't be so scared of failing and stuff like that. Like, because at this point, teams are passing us by and it sucks.
Yeah, I mean, you're 4-6, 4-7. Like, play loosey goosey, man. Throw the ball around, be aggressive, try to spark change, try to spark points. Like, I was like, only the Jets. I'm like, I liked it. I like being aggressive. I called them like, dude, throw a Hail Mary. Maybe we get a miracle. Maybe you get a pass interference. Maybe the last thing I'm thinking of is a pick six. But that was the last thing. I couldn't even fathom it. I was shocked when I was like, this is real life? Like, what are we watching? It happens. I'd do it again next week. I wouldn't care. But they just gotta, like, you want to see like a sense of urgency going forward, man. Like, you're 4-7. Act like you want to win. Act like you care. Don't be lifeless zombies. And that's the one thing that, again, I'm piling on Zala, so I'll take all the heat for it. Is the one thing I can't take is if Quincy Williams makes a big play, Salah's doing his little dance on the sideline with Quincy Williams. The team is literally melting in front of him. Players are getting bad personal fouls. There's fights. There's all this stuff. The blank stare and the lifeless emotion of him on the sideline is driving me crazy. Like, are you just lost in your thoughts? Because you're not calling plays. So don't act like you're trying to figure out what the next play call is. You're watching your team melt in front of your eyes, and you're saying nothing. Like, Todd Bowles used to have this arm cross. Todd Bowles did this stuff. Salah's worse, dude. He's like just no emotion. He's just lost out there. Like, well, it's falling apart. Let's go for the ride. You know what I mean? Like, you'd want to see more. Like, the Michael Clemens personal foul was completely unfortunate. He didn't mean to hit the referee. That was a complete accident. But the Quentin Jefferson one is just like, dude, like, some of these personal fouls, you're like, what are we doing? Like, bring him over to the sideline, talk to him. Like, I know you don't want to embarrass your players, but you can hold them accountable. Like, bro, what are you doing? We got to stop doing this stuff. Like, have a rule. Listen, every friggin' personal foul, you're out of the game. You're sitting the rest of the quarter. Something like, have some kind of like, just try to help clean this up. And he doesn't seem to do any of that.
It seems like the problems aren't addressed throughout the week. That's like the sense that I get, because it keeps popping up. Like, do the Jets work on like third down specifics at all? Or like red zone specifics at all? Because it just doesn't seem like it's getting any better. Nope. Like the Jets we were okay, on third downs, but we weren't okay on third downs, but it was better than like the 0-11 against Buffalo. We were bad. We weren't terrible. But dude, all of the third downs came in garbage time.
Yeah.
When Miami was just sitting back in coverage, like
a lot of petty.
So I'm not even counting that, because I think at halftime we were 0-5 on third downs, 0 points going into halftime, two first downs on the day.
Yeah, it's that the penalties are lack of discipline, pre-snap penalties. It's all stuff. It's just gross, man. So I don't know where we go from here. Like, it's hard to even analyze like a Jets Falcons game, because I'm like, who's playing? Are they going to try? Can our offense get 100 passing yards before the third quarter? Like, our standards are so low now. Like, and you made a good point too. Like, somebody broke out all these stats. Like, look at all these stats. I'm like, bro, it's garbage time. Like, you're looking at these numbers now. They're not look at your numbers before halftime. The defense gets you a pick six. You missed the friggin' point after, which is typical Jets. And then you get the points right back. Like, it's like, tell me how you can justify this offense just scoring points, and I can give you a game preview. Well, Desmond Ridder sucks. The Falcons suck. The Falcons beat the Saints yesterday, and they're finding ways to win. They got a great running game. So, like,
the Falcons are in first place. They're a playoff team, technically.
And they're playing inspired ball with Desmond Ridder. Like, it's just, he's finding ways to make plays. So I don't know, man. You're going to learn a lot. I guess, when's Aaron Rodgers back in the building? Is it this week?
Not sure.
Yeah, I think they said his
Not even
birthday's
sure.
Saturday, right? So I think he wants to practice by his birthday. So he's gonna be around the facility, I'm assuming, very shortly. I'm curious to see if the mistakes start to get cleaned up when he's here, because then that's a huge indictment on the coaching staff, bro. Because if he came in, things start getting cleaned up, that means these coaches have no feel for this locker room. They have no control of the locker room. He's the actual voice.
Yeah. Yep. 100%. 100% agree. I think this week will be a huge. What would be the word? Like, based off how the Jets performed this week against Atlanta, this is going to be one of the games where we're going to figure out how the Jets, what the Jets' morale is, or like
Yes.
where the attitude lies, positive, negative. Because Atlanta, say what you want about them, yeah, first place, they're not horrible. They're a lot worse than Miami.
Yep.
They're a lot worse than Buffalo.
Yep.
If we go out there and get humiliated again, losing what I believe it would be 5 in a row.
Yep.
I think 5 in a row.
It'd be 5.
Yeah. I'm gonna have a major problem.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the games you look at if you want to write your season or turn things around. This is the kind of game you do it, man, because they're a good team. They're not great. They're flawed. There's things you can take advantage of. If you don't do that, first of all, you want to see, does the team come out lifeless and with energy? Do they believe in what they're doing? If not, but if they get steamrolled by the Falcons, or if it's like a pretty convincing like ass beating by the Falcons, you're like, dude, the team has actually quit. They've given up. They have no belief. They're not listening to the coaches anymore. And that's an indictment on a team, and that's where things are going to get uglier, man. Like I'm telling you, I cannot. Woody Johnson will be speaking to the media soon to give that vote of confidence, to try to silence all the critics and all the doubters and all this other stuff. It's coming. It's coming. But you're right. Sunday is going to be very, very telling about this team, the leadership, the locker room, and everything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I had another point that I wanted to kind of talk about, but it's kind of slipping my mind. Oh, this was it. Based off of everything that we've seen from the Jets this season, and this is the last thing too, by the way, so we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
Based off of what we've seen from like Saleh and this Jets coaching staff, like even if Rodgers was here and we're in like a tight playoff game in the cold, like in Baltimore or in wherever, insert good team, Chiefs, Dolphins, whoever, do you have faith in the coaching staff to go toe to toe with like John Harbaugh or Andy Reid or one of these top guys in the playoffs when it matters most?
See, that's a good question, because you have a level of faith in the defense. Like if they need a big defensive stand, I think the Jets have shown they blitz more now. They're a little bit more aggressive. They definitely changed that. They played more 4 quarters than they used to, and they're a playmaking defense now. So that's different. On offense, you gotta, and this is me just again, I'm down on Saleh, so I'm not gonna lie about it. But you get the feeling that Rodgers probably takes over a little bit too. But like, listen, I'm running the offense. I'm gonna like it's him, like that, like the offense being attacking and being aggressive. You have a level of confidence. In terms of time management and game management overall, Saleh's shaky, man. Like I think his nature is conservative, which bothers me. We've seen in the past. I mean, I know he went for the fake punt with a couple weeks ago. It was like like the 20-yard line for a fake punt and stuff. That's probably out of desperation. But in a big spot like that, I'm not so sure I have faith in him, man. I think he's got a lot to prove still. And what do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. But again, I kind of go back to like Tampa and Brady. It's like Brady had the playoff resume, but even if you take that away and like say Brady, had 2 picks by halftime or something like that, like you still have faith in Arians as an offensive mind, as somebody that can, we keep talking about riding the ship. Like we have faith in Arians to get it figured out as the game goes on, making those adjustments.
Well, you think Rodgers was calling audible. Rodgers will have the offense and be like, they can call Hackett can call the play. He'll be like, yeah, I ain't running that play. He'll audible out of it and call his own play anyway. Right? Like he's not going to listen. So
yeah. Which is, fine in the moment, but it's like, does that fact alone make you like, because it makes me question everything. Like, I don't want that to be my staff then. If we are literally being forced out because it's different. We can talk about like good quarterbacks, like carrying a team, like Peyton Manning or whoever, like, yeah, it's my show, my team. But I don't want to be one of those teams where the head coach, the offensive coordinator are holding the team back. I want the head coach and the offensive coordinator to be elevating and pulling everybody out. Like, that's kind of what I felt with Rex. Maybe not so much like offensively, but like I remember games, dude, literally watching kick returners play corners or play cornerback. Like Salim Hakeem, I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah, I remember. Yep.
Yeah, like there was a game where he had to line up at corner. We would constantly have to move like Antonio Allen, like free safety, strong safety, nickel corner, outside corner. Darren Wallace, like finding like diamonds in the rough, making just constantly constantly figuring out answers on a week-to-week basis. Adversity hits. Okay, we're gonna do this instead, and it's going to work. But with Rex, in the end, it was just couldn't develop a quarterback. Same issues here. But at least with those Rex teams, it seemed like he had the what would be the word? Like he knew the importance of having a scout offensive line. He knew the importance of controlling the ball, time of possession.
He had a vision,
giving his defense a break.
Yep.
Whereas with us, it's just kind of doesn't. That the whole offensive side is just a gray area. It's just like this cloudy mess. We have no idea what we're stumbling into, uncharted waters. Whereas with Rex, it's like I might not know how to do it exactly, and I'm going to have to get somebody in to do these things. But I do know it's important, and I do know we have to figure it out, because if we don't, we're not going to be a good team.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think the one thing that could be hindering Saleh is having a quarterback that is so clueless and his football IQ isn't where it should be, that it holds the team back with Zach Wilson. Like his situational awareness, his game awareness, all stuff is so bad where it's like, like you think like the common sense plays aren't being made. Like, going out of bounds, taking don't throw the ball up, haphazardly, taking sacks, stuff like that, where if you have a competent quarterback, that helps your time management as well. So Saleh has not really had that. Maybe Mike White was better, but that could be a hindrance too. When you have a competent quarterback, it helps your game management. But I know exactly what you're saying. Like, Saleh has so much to prove, and he's going to go back-to-back years of disappointment, and he's going to get another year to do it again, which is kind of wild. But that's the cards. He's fortunate right now.
Yeah. But yeah, dude, so we're approaching an hour and 12 minutes. We'll call it there. And dude, like, what's crazy, man? Like if the Jets were winning football games and we were like had stuff to talk about, like playoffs and, previewing like other teams' games and stuff like that, like Indy winning and Cleveland losing and stuff like that, man, it would be so much fun. But, here we are. And again, we're just trying to keep it real, being honest about like how we feel and everything, like on the channel, like, for like we don't do any like sort of, we just kind of like let it fly, So man, I'm hoping we can turn it around. I don't really have much faith, but
it's not easy, man. It's like, I'm glad we did the show today and not like Saturday, because Saturday I would have complained about the Hail Mary and the penalties, but we have time to digest it and be like, all right, let's look at a global view of the team, what's going wrong, what's going right, and just be honest about it. And it's not pretty right now. The Jets, probably minus the Panthers, are one of the worst teams in football right now. So we can't, you can't try to put, we're not going to put like flowers around it when it's not worthy of it. So hopefully they win this weekend and we can figure something out and something gets sparked. But I don't have any faith either, to be honest with you. I'm kind of like just down and out about this team.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks. But I will say this weekend, man, if there's an opportunity to turn it around, it's this weekend.
100%.
Because I think we could control Ritter, the offense, and everything like that. But, like every week, it comes down to the offense. But we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for everybody tuning in. This was, I think, the longest episode that we've recorded.
Yeah, it is.
And, despite the Jets looking horrible offensively every week, I always have a blast doing these, with you, Tyson. And, I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody sticking around listening.
No, this has been awesome, dude. I really appreciate the feedback, the support. It's not easy to be like, we don't like being negative. It's not something, we don't enjoy doing this. I'd love to talk to you about, hey, man, win this game. We're back in the playoff hunt. But, it is just got to hang in there.
Yeah. So, like I said, hopefully we get a dub this weekend. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. And as always, go Jets.